Yo, what is up guys? Jamie from Jamie's Detailing. Today I was able to get my hands on the brand new Ryobi 1.8 GPM pressure washer that is made specifically for detailing. Now, not only does this thing have a higher flow rate at 1.8 gallons per minute, but this thing also is 1200 PSI instead of 1800 PSI, which is super important for detailing. Typically, you want to have your pressure washer anywhere between 800 PSI to 1200 PSI. So that this fits perfectly in that range, and depending on what tip you guys are using is actually going to decrease that PSI even further. So before we can actually test this thing out, I got to get this thing unboxed and installed in the vehicle. So let's see what this thing actually comes with. Popping this thing out of our box. First thing coming out is this nice little extension wand right here for our wand. Up next, we have the brand new stubby style wand from Ryobi, and I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, this thing actually feels pretty nice. I do not necessarily like this angle that they have right here on here. Just holding it right here, my initial impression, it's gonna be nice for waist level, but anytime you're up above, it's just you're really gonna have to be angling that wrist to get like the top of the vehicle, the roof, and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna like this angle, but I do gotta say that this is a nice trigger on here. It's nice and loose compared to a lot of other cheap stubbies out there, you know what I'm saying? This thing comes in the box with the pressure washers, so this is actually a pretty nice feeling gun, but I'm not sure how I like this angle. Angle on this is much more Glock than Smith & Wesson, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyways, we've got a bunch of manuals and information in here. Comes with a nice little handle, but I know I'm not going to be using this thing. This is Ryobi's brand new foam cannon. We'll go ahead and test this thing out in just a few minutes. There are the tips, tucked away nicely. Now we have our brand new tips that actually come with the device. This is a 15 degree, and it looks like it is 4.2 millimeters. So this is a 15 degree 4.2 millimeter. And they do have the millimeters and everything marked actually on here. I'm not sure if you guys can read that small, but it is marked on here what the tips are, which is always nice. Right here we have our 40 degree, and this is a 40 degree 3.4, so 40 degree 3.4. Now this tip right here is the 25 degree 3.4 millimeter, so this should be actually pretty comparable to my favorite tip from MTM Hydro, which is a 25 degree 3.5 millimeter. So this is a 3.4 millimeter, this is 3.5 millimeter, but they're both 25 degrees, so we'll test these out together too. The last accessory in the package is the 40-foot hose that comes with it. This actually doesn't even seem like that terrible of a hose, but I have a much better hose in my detailing rig, which I'm gonna most likely be using. I'm not gonna end up using this, but you could use this if you guys needed to. And this is our 1200 PSI, 1.8 gallon per minute pressure washer. This thing is going to be awesome. It's the exact same size. It looks the exact same as the 1800 PSI one. But this is the automotive specific pressure washer. So super excited to get this thing in the vehicle, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing installed. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on how I get this thing installed. I do end up trimming this cable and doing some weird stuff in order to get it installed in my detailing rig, so if you guys want to see how I have it installed in the detailing rig, you guys can check out that full video that I'm gonna be releasing in a few days, a couple weeks, a little bit later on, but be on the lookout for how I'm actually installing this thing in my detailing rig. We just got the 1.8 GPM pressure washer installed in the detailing rig. I got it all hooked up to my normal setup with my pressure washing reel and my MTM Hydro SG28 pressure washing wand, and I have my favorite 3.5 millimeter 25 degree tip on here. So let's go ahead and see how this goes. And I don't know why I'm losing my voice, but I'm losing my voice probably because I'm excited about this thing. But let's go ahead and power this thing on now that I have her all primed and ready to go. So here we go, guys. Oh, I can already tell that's more volume of water. That is much more water already, guys. Ignore this. It rained the other day, and I just did a little test with my old pressure washer just so we can compare the before and after. But I think the pressure is very, very similar to what it used to be. Just gauging off of here, the pressure might even be a tiny bit higher. It feels like it's a little bit more. But yeah, this is putting out a good volume of water. But let's actually head over to the back of the vehicle. That's where I tested the 1.2 GPM earlier. So let's see how the 1.8 is doing in comparison with the foam cannon and all that. All right, so first things first, guys, I want to see how the tips that come with this unit actually compare to the tip that I'm normally using with my old pressure washer, which is the 25 degree 3.5 millimeter MTM Hydro tip. So let's see how this one does in comparison first to the green one. So first, let's check out the MTM Hydro. Getting good amount of water there. All right, and now let's try out our 25 degree 3.4 millimeter tip. So this one is a tiny bit smaller as far as the orifice size, but it is should be the same degree of opening. Okay. Oh, and if you guys need tip holders, I do have a discount code in the description down below. Feel free to use that. This works great for any tips that you guys are looking to hold on any pressure washing gun, including the new Ryobi one that comes with the kit. Honestly, I think that my MTM Hydro may need to be replaced or cleaned. It's getting a little rusty on the inside. It seems like the spray pattern is just ever so slightly off. And I'm actually kind of liking this new Ryobi 25 degree tip a little bit more than my classic. Only because you can see when it's nice and lined up, like super obviously. So, rookie move. So I'm actually thinking that I like this 25 degree tip from Ryobi a little bit more. It seems to be putting out almost the exact same real world use case. I'm really not seeing much of a difference here. And this one actually has a slightly better spray pattern I'm seeing. It's a little bit more consistent than my old MTM Hydro, and the fact that this thing's getting a little bit rusty is not helping it out at all. But I would actually say that the Ryobi 3.4 millimeter tip that's on this guy is actually doing a really, really nice job. Alright, so we get it. That one's typically my favorite is a 25 degree tip, and this old tip right here, which is a 15 degree 3.5. We can toss this one to the side for now. I'm not sure if we'll really use some of those. And tip holders if you guys need one. Anyways, now we have our 15 degree tip. So let's see how our standard orange or yellow tip does. This one has, let's see. This one has the 4.2, so this is the biggest orifice size on these on the out of the kit. That's nice. So yeah, guys, this 15 degree tip will definitely get the job done if you guys need to blast into some cracks or crevices and all that kind of stuff. This will definitely help you out. Let's try the 40 degree tip, which is a 3.4 millimeter. So this is the 40 degree tip. I actually really like that 40 degree tip with the 3.4. That is a nice little tip right there. So I'm probably going to toss this little 40 down here for later. Nice. All right. So now we have our 25 degree tip, which I really like. Let's see this one more time. If I like the Ryobi one better, we're not going to be brand loyal right now. We're going to use what works best. I don't know. Those are super, super close, guys. Those are super close. Let's try the Ryobi one more time. This has a noticeably slightly better spray pattern at 25 degrees than my MTM Hydro. And again, I think it's because my MTM Hydro needs a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of service, if you will. And it fits better. It's because this thing's all rusty. It doesn't like to go into my tip holder. So yeah, this guy needs to be cleaned. I'm going to keep these guys on here because these are working phenomenally well, and I actually really, really like these tips. So now that we tested out all the tips, let's test out the foam cannon that this guy actually comes with. So I found out that the foam cannon that comes with this actually has a quick release top, so it only needs like a quarter turn to take off, which is actually pretty cool for a free foam cannon. That's actually pretty nice. And it also has this nice little filter down here in the bottom. So it's actually a relatively decent foam cannon. They put it together relatively well. I know it's not going to compare to the MTM Hydro foam cannon, but maybe it'll surprise me. So here we are with the Ryobi foam cannon. Let's see how it does compared to the regular MTM Hydro. Huh. Is that adjustable at all? So you can only adjust the angle. You can only adjust the horizontal, vertical. You can only spin it. You can't actually adjust the pattern whatsoever. And I have this thing cranked all the way to the left for max foam. Honestly, for a free foam cannon, this will get the job done. If you guys just need it for a pre-soak or something simple, why even spend money if you guys don't need to? This one honestly really is not that bad. So I would almost recommend, if you guys are trying to save some money and be a little bit more cost budget minded, I would definitely just use this foam cannon. That's enough to put foam on the vehicle. Little bit of foam left in here, and I want to try out this cannon with the main water supply actually feeding directly into the pressure washer instead of it being gravity fed. So let's see if there's any difference in the foam production. Yeah, we're still getting that same really runny foam, so not really a big difference with the Ryobi foam cannon. Alright, so now let's actually see how this thing does with the normal MTM foam cannon that I'm normally using. And just for comparison, this is the actual MTM hydro foam cannon that I normally use for professional detailing. You guys can see that the foam is way thicker on the panel. And yeah, I mean, you could even get better foam than this with a higher GPM pressure washer, but typically the higher the GPM, the more foam you're gonna get. So that's pretty good. Oh, and I haven't even tried this yet. But just doing a straight squirt from the gun, you're getting way more water. So look how much water we're getting in comparison to before. So that is a ton more water than what we were getting with the 1800 PSI unit. So I'm going to go ahead and test this guy out with the MTM Hydro foam cannon. First, I'm going to see how much foam we're getting in comparison to the old 1800 PSI pressure washer. And then we're going to see how quickly we can rinse off the foam with the new pressure washer. So let's go ahead and lay down some foam. Right now we're using the house pressure. We're not using the gravity fed system. I just want to give it its best chance possible. So this is with it being fed from the main water from the house. So let's see how it does. And yeah, guys, I'm getting faster coverage. I'm getting thicker foam, stickier foam, and I really do like that a lot. This is definitely putting out more volume when it comes to the foam cannon itself. Now normally I'd let this guy dwell for a little bit, but we're just doing this for an example. So let's go ahead and see how this rinses off. And yeah, that rinse is way quicker. Seems like it's doing something weird, the pressure washer. All right. So now that we tested it out with the main water supply, now I want to hook it up to the gravity fed system or to the tank inside of the detailing rig and see if there is any difference in the amount of foam that we're getting or how much water volume we're getting out of the gun. This is our first test with the gravity fed system. So the biggest thing is, can the gravity fed system keep up with the amount of water that this thing needs? So really quick, let's see how it does foaming. Make sure our cannon is on. And right away, guys, there is a massive difference in the amount of foam that we're getting. And look how runny this foam is when we don't have that added pressure from the hose itself. So there's definitely a huge difference in performance. So yeah, guys, I can already tell that this foam is a lot thinner. It went on the panel way thinner. You guys can see this. It is way thinner on the panel. It's a much liquidier foam compared to what we were getting before, which isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as it's still doing its job, but just something to be aware of. You don't need a ton of foam to do its job. You only need as much as you need. So now that we had this thing foamed down, let's see how well she does with the rinse. You guys can see there is a big difference between the amount of the water volume that we're getting with this thing plugged in versus when it's not plugged into the main power or the main water supply. Here's our 1800 PSI pressure washer. So the foam's not bad, but it definitely takes a second to get coverage. And it's going on pretty thick and good, but again, we could be getting a little bit more foam, I think, if we had more water volume. Let's go ahead and see how this rinses. So what are my initial impressions on the Ryobi 1.8 gallon per minute pressure washer? Now, I definitely like this thing a lot. I'm noticing a huge difference in the amount of water that's coming out of here, using these, even just these stock tips that come with the device. And I'm noticing that I'm getting a ton more foam when I'm using my foam cannon. So those are two awesome things, and it's also rinsing a lot quicker. But one thing that I am kind of thinking about in the back of my mind is conserving water. When I was using my old 1.2 gallon per minute unit, I could easily conserve the water that was in this tank, and I'm already noticing that the tank inside my rig is definitely draining much quicker. So I'm probably just gonna have to get used to using more water at once and work a little quicker when I'm rinsing and stuff like that. But that is definitely something that I'm gonna be kind of keeping in the back of my head over the next couple weeks that I'm trying this guy out. But overall, I'm definitely liking the having a lot more water volume, and I'm liking the fact that this thing came with some really nice tips, and I'm probably going to end up using these tips. And I really like that they kind of show you the direction that your water's pointing, depending on how you guys orient your tip. The MTM Hydro ones are circular, and they don't really tell you guys in a good way what direction your pressure washer is going to be spraying. So it's actually nice having these tips with these guards on here that actually show you guys the direction that your water is going to be oriented. So overall, guys, if I was you guys, I would pick this guy up if you guys are super into detailing. Now, if you guys are planning on using your pressure washer for stuff outside of detailing, I think that the 1.2 gallon per minute pressure washer will still be pretty relevant, especially if you're using it like around the house and cleaning concrete and all that kind of stuff. It will help having that higher PSI. But for washing cars, guys, having that 800 to 1200 PSI is really the sweet spot for washing cars. So this is really going to be a huge upgrade compared to my old 1800 PSI gun, and I'm getting a lot more water flow. So those are two huge reasons to pick this thing up. And if you guys wanted to use the accessories that come with the new device, it comes with a lot of way better accessories as far as having the shorty little, the stubby gun. You also get a twice as long of hose with it. So yeah, a bunch of awesome reasons to get the new one over the old $100 1800 PSI unit. But overall, guys, I am going to say that this is going to be the new best pressure washer for automotive detailing, whether you guys are hobbyists or you guys are professionals and you just need a cheap, inexpensive budget pressure washer for your guys' detailing business. So anyways, I am super excited to be trying this thing out over the next few weeks in the real world and kind of see how it works. If you guys want a super technical review on this thing, Cars with Kiev did a really good video on it, so I'm going to link that down below. He tried this thing out with all sorts of different nozzles, different hoses, and all sorts of stuff to really see what the specs were like as far as the pressure, the gallons per minute, and even the amperage that this thing's pulling depending on what tip you guys are using. So I'm going to leave that link down below for you guys to go check out. That is an awesome video, and he really did a great job going over this thing in detail, which I know I'm not going to do on this channel. So I plan on doing a real world review of this thing in the future just to kind of see how it works for me over the next couple weeks. So if you guys want to see that video, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. But that is all that I had for today's video, so I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.